2022 was the year that I decided to crack down and tackle my ever-growing OTOME backlog. With the many releases that are coming out in the second half of this year, and the announcements that have been made for 2023, I know that I'm going to have a lot to look forward to in the coming months. But that also worries me that my backlog would stay as just that, a backlog. So I made a conscious decision to really dive into my collection, to find the games that were doing nothing but collecting dust. In my last review, I mentioned that I had finally gotten around to playing Norn 9 on the PS Vita, and I genuinely ended up having a really good time playing that game. So why stop there? After completing that OTOME, I went back to my Vita collection, and the game that caught my eye was 7'Scarlet. I remember buying this game on eBay a while back when I saw that it was on sale, only for me to shelf it as soon as it arrived in the mail, and it immediately became out of sight, out of mind. After realizing that I had it in my collection, I instantly became intrigued again, because in all honesty, I haven't heard many people talk about this game, and the few comments that I did hear every now and then were overall positive. 7'Scarlet is an OTOME developed by OTOMATE and Toybox Inc. that was initially released in Japan on the PS Vita in 2016, and was later released in the West in 2018 and 2019 on both the PS Vita and Steam. The game follows our main character, Ichiko, and her childhood friend, Hino, who are heading to the countryside town of Okunezuto during their summer vacation. Hino discovers a website for the Okunezuto's Supernatural Club, and is heading to the town to partake in the club's first in-person meeting, while Ichiko is accompanying him to search for her brother that went missing in the same town a year prior. They are staying in the town's only lodging, the Furinkan Hotel, along with other members of the Supernatural Club and a few other guests. With only 2 exits in and out of Okunezuto, it is an isolated town shrouded in legends and myths. From a mythical flower unique to the town, to foxfires appearing in the mountains, to even the dead being resurrected in a zombie-like state, Ichiko must sift through these legends and lore to discover the truth behind her brother's disappearance, and determine whether there's more truth to these tales than its citizens let on. Now let's get into the love interests. There are 5 main suitors in this game, with 1 secret character that will become available at the very end. I'll introduce the characters in the order that I played them in, but keep in mind that after the first 2 characters, you won't have a choice on whose route you'll play next, as only 1 route unlocks after each completion. First off, we have Ichiko's friend, Hino. Hino and Ichiko have been friends since elementary school, and they've attended the same school ever since. Even now in college, the two still have a very solid friendship. Hino is athletic, friendly, and a little bit of a dork. He has an obsession with cute merchandise, and watching him get excited over meeting the town's mascot had me clutching at my heart with how adorable he is. Next up is Isora, a chef at the Furin Cafe, and a fellow member of the Supernatural Club. He's a high school student with dreams of becoming one of the best patissiers in the world, and he loves to constantly sweet-talk his way with Ichiko, much to Hino's annoyance. After completing Hino and Isora's routes, you'll then unlock Toa. Ichiko first meets Toa lying face down in the ground, surrounded by cats, which is both the cutest and quirkiest introduction to a character that I've ever seen. He's quiet, shy, and a little bit of a klutz, but that just makes him all the more endearing. After Toa, we have Sosuke, a medical student that Ichiko encounters at the town's bookstore. He's very to the point with his speech, and looks at every problem through a lens of reason. Even when telling a joke, he delivers the lines with such a stoic face and tone of voice that no one can actually tell if he's being serious or not. The 5th main route is Yuzuki, the owner of the Furinkan Hotel. His family, the Murakumos, are a powerful family that essentially controls all of Okunezuto. Not much is known about him, and he lives in a secluded residence separate from the hotel. But from Ichiko's first encounter with Yuzuki, she immediately feels unwelcome to the town, and tries to steer clear from him from then on. Once you've completed the good endings of the 5 main characters, you'll unlock the true ending. And finally, following the true ending, you'll unlock the final character. I'm not always a fan of unlockable routes because I find that they can be a deterrence for some players. If I play the first route and I find that I don't enjoy it, it makes me question whether it's worth my time continuing to play the game or simply dropping it and picking up a title where I can choose who I'm most interested in from the get-go. But in the case of 7'Scarlet, these unlockable routes are vital to the storytelling. Each route slowly unravels the mysteries of the town, Ichiko's involvement with every character, and brings her one step closer to discovering the truth behind her hazy childhood memories and her brother's disappearance. In this game, I was glad that these routes had to be unlocked as you progressed, because I know for a fact that if I had played one of the 3 locked routes from the beginning, it wouldn't have been nearly as satisfying as it did when I reached that true ending. Now, although this game is from OTOME and is considered to be an OTOME title, I would say that the romance takes the back burner in this game, which I didn't mind in the slightest. In all honesty, I didn't really care for the romance between Ichiko and most of the suitors, except for a few select characters. What this game puts more to the forefront is a compelling plot full of suspense and mystery that had me guessing up until the very end. Every time I thought I had the plot figured out, the game would throw a curveball and completely blindside me. Sure, there were some predictable scenarios that I figured out almost immediately, but for the latter half of the game, I had no idea what was in store for me. I won't go as far to say as this is the best plot that I've ever played in an OTOME, but this game, personally, holds a high ranking in terms of the storytelling. What I think this game excels at is setting a good atmosphere. Prior to playing this game, there's only been one title that unnerved me, which was Color Malice. But 7'Scarlet genuinely gave me chills. This game did a really good job at setting the eerie atmosphere that made me feel the fear Ichiko was feeling, and experience the terror firsthand as if it were my own. Now, while I thought the plot was well done, there were other elements that, well, let's just say they weren't as good. My main gripe being Ichiko herself. I'm so sorry to any Ichiko fans out there, but I found her to be one of the most plain and borderline boring main characters that I've ever come across. She has nearly no memorable qualities, not a whole lot of personality, and I found myself getting frustrated at how easily she changed her tune about how she felt towards certain characters. I also found that the character development for some suitors were somewhat lacking. A prime example being Isora, who, at times, I found incredibly annoying. Despite these things that I mentioned, I ended up not minding them too much because I was so engrossed in the story that it was easy for me to look past what I thought this game was lacking. As always from OTOME, the music, art, and voice acting are wonderful, but I have to give a special shout out to Toa's voice actor. Time and time again, I'm blown away by the range this man has. For example, the voice actor for shy, timid Toa is the same voice actor for the suave, swoon-worthy Gilbert from Pio Fiore. This is the duality of man at its finest, folks. I was immediately able to recognize that the character artist is Kurohana Chinatsu, the same artist as Uta no Prince-sama, and while I did like the character designs, what really caught my attention were the backgrounds. These backgrounds give a very lifelike appearance, almost as if you were looking at a faded photograph or a postcard from an actual town. There were times that I would just spend minutes looking at all the details in each image, wondering if they were actually based off of a real place. Similar to the realistic backgrounds, this game adopts movie-like elements, with cutscenes spread throughout the game. For instance, at the very beginning, there's a cutscene of a woman fleeing through a forest while being pursued. In the common route, there's a cinematic cutscene of the bus Ichiko and Hino are traveling in, with panoramic shots of the mountains. And during routes, the games will fade to a shot of the game's title, almost as if it were an intermission screen. 7'Scarlet has a theatrical presentation style that makes this game all the more memorable to me. Something that I really appreciated is all the little details the developers put into this game in regards to the home screen and the dictionary. When starting off 7'Scarlet, the title screen will only show you the 2 love interests that are available at first, Hino and Isora. But as you unlock each route, more and more characters would be displayed on the home screen, and I felt such a sense of accomplishment each time a new character popped up. Like, welcome to the team! Get on up there, champ! Another feature I liked is that every time the title screen appears, one of the suitors will say 7'Scarlet in a hushed voice. And while I thought it was neat and I didn't pay much attention to it, eventually I realized that the characters began to say different phrases. I was so used to the repetition of the characters saying 7'Scarlet that the first time I heard something different, it completely caught me off guard, and again, left me a little unnerved. It's so subtle that some players may not even notice the entire time while playing the game, because as far as I know, it's completely random. And the first time it happened to me was after completing the 3rd route. After I noticed this, I sat there for a good 20 minutes just reloading the start menu time and time again to hear what different phrases there were. And after putting on my detective hat, here is what I found. Hino will say yamero, which roughly translates to stop it. Isara says mada, meaning not yet. Toa says doshite, meaning why. Sosuke says nigero, meaning run away. And Yuzuki says chigao, meaning wrong. Although I might be wrong with who says Sosuke's and Yuzuki's lines because they sound very similar. The final voice difference that I noticed was that once you unlock the final character, he'll also join the suitors in saying 7'Scarlet. Now overall, these make absolutely zero difference in the gameplay, but I love when companies do stuff like this. It really goes to show the extra care and attention to detail they put into their games, and I have to give them credit for this. Another good example is in Olympia Soiree. Depending on the time of day that you load the game, a suitor will tell you either good night or good morning and give you an encouraging message that always makes me excited to load up the game, eagerly anticipating what the next character will say to me. Little extra goodies like this always make me happy, and I appreciate when the developers go the extra mile to add these elements. Another element that gave me a good chuckle in this game was its dictionary, or tip screen as it's called in this game. While most OTOMEs have this to provide a good understanding of phrases and events that happen in these games, in 7'Scarlet, I like to call the tip screen a dictionary with attitude. Here's a few examples. The moon. In Chinese philosophy, the sun is yang and the moon is yin, representing shadow. Additionally, in both Japanese and Western cultures, the moon is said to drive people mad, as evidenced by the word lunatic, which is derived from luna, the Latin word for moon. Likewise, some believe that women should never look up at the moon. In any case, this is all very bad publicity for the poor moon. Character. She began her pursuit of mastering the English language years ago, but it turned out that her teacher had no overseas experience to speak of. She dutifully continued her studies unaware of this, which is why her pronunciation is unique. We ask that you treat her with patience and kindness. These always gave me a giggle, and every time a new tip appeared, I actually looked forward to reading the explanation, rather than quickly skimming over them and planning to never look back at them again. Now if you've already played this game, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that the true ending absolutely destroyed me emotionally. I don't want to spoil anything for viewers who haven't had a chance to play the game, but a true ending has never left me this emotionally damaged than 7'Scarlet did. Only one other game has managed to bring me to tears, but this game opened up the floodgates like no other. From both the true ending to the final unlockable route. Both had me bawling my eyes out. It doesn't help that these are the last two routes you'll play, so I was sitting there staring at the title screen, trying to mend my broken heart back together. Even now, weeks later, I'm still not over these endings, and I'm certain that these routes will be stuck in my head for years to come. As for who is my favorite character, for me it has to be Yuzuki, which was quite surprising for me because from the common route, I thought he would be my least favorite character. But, like the saying always goes, don't judge a book by its cover. There's a lot more to this stone-faced man than meets the eye, and learning his backstory made me want to give this poor guy a big old hug. My honorable mentions have to go to Toa and the final route, but especially Toa. While playing this game, I was already thinking about what rating I would give it, and originally I had settled on a solid 7 out of 10. But as soon as I got to the second half of the game, my opinion changed to 8 out of 10. While I think 7'Scarlet gets off to a very average start, its story really picks up in the later half. and with all the revelations that come to light, I was left feeling extremely satisfied by the endgame. You know, despite my poor heart still being in shambles. Some players might not like the fact that you'll have to push yourself past the first few routes to get to the good stuff, but in my opinion, this game is completely worth it. Do I recommend this game? Yes. Although I understand that this game will not be for everyone. I absolutely recommend this game for people who love I absolutely recommend this game for people who love mystery and suspense. If you're a fan of Call or Malice, I think you'll enjoy this game, as both titles have a dark, somber storyline with a compelling plot. This game is also relatively short, with each route only taking me about 3 to 4 hours. In total, I think it took me roughly 24 to 26 hours to complete. So if you're looking for something that's not too short, but not too long either, then 7'Scarlet is a perfect middle ground. As I mentioned earlier, this game doesn't put a heavy emphasis on romance, so if that's a factor that you put to the forefront when selecting an OTOME, then this game probably won't be for you. This game can also get quite dark, with one wrong selection potentially leading to the death of you or your suitor, so keep that in mind when deciding whether or not to pick up this game. Now, where can you play 7'Scarlet? I played this game on my PS Vita, but you can also purchase this game on Steam, although from what I've seen online, some players have mentioned that the game crashes quite a bit on PC. What I really wish for is for access to port this game to the Switch, even if it was a digital download only, but I have a sneaking suspicion that'll never happen. Ah well, a girl can always dream. 7'Scarlet is truly a hidden gem in the OTOME community. Before playing this game, I had heard next to nothing about it, and in hindsight, I'm so glad I went into this game blindly, because my expectations were blown completely out of the water. If you're even a little bit interested in this game, and are able to get your hands on a copy of it, then I would definitely give it a go, because this game is in need for the recognition that it rightfully deserves. So I hope this review helped you decide whether or not to play 7'Scarlet, but if you only take one message away from this video, then I hope that it's this. Please tackle your backlog. You never know what treasures are waiting to be discovered.